featured startup, BizPay is an automated bank-integrated and mobile-first expense management software suite for corporate prepaid cards, apps, and services. Hi, welcome to Follow Startups. I'm your host, Ankita Pahwa, and today we are joined by Mikdad Merchant, the founder and CEO at BizPay. He's here to share some exciting new developments happening at BizPay. But before we dive in, I highly recommend checking out our previous episode with him, where we explored how BizPay is transforming expense management for businesses. In today's episode, we'll be taking a closer look at some real world case studies that demonstrate how BizPay is streamlining financial operations across various industries. Hi, Mikdad. Welcome to Follow Startups.
Hi, Ankita. Thank you so much for having me again. It's a pleasure.
It's wonderful to have you with us again. Mikdad, let's kick things off with a very interesting use case in the hospitality sector that I read about. So, can you share the story behind Ghost Ops and the challenges they were facing with employee expense management before BizPay came into the picture?
Okay, so Ghost Ops is basically a hostel chain, right? You must have heard about them, and they're becoming pretty popular. They have more than 30 hostel locations spread all over the country. Now, what happens in any hostel chain, right? They have to take care of many expenses. This ranges into managing their kitchen, so their daily uh, their daily purchases of raw materials and food items, etc., to their maintenance of their various hostels and all of that, plus personnel expenses, other petty cash expenses, etc. So when it came to managing all these expenses across these various hostels, right? Each of these locations had kind of developed their own policy, their own system, their own processes. And when it came to the central team knowing by what is the cost of managing and maintaining each hostel location, this used to take them a lot of time to compile because all the petty cash records and all the other records were just in manual form. To get all of that put into entries and all of that, there used to be a lot of delays. And plus, there was no live tracking. I mean, for example, if a location is all other expenses are supposed to be, say, 1 lakh rupees a month. If you come to know that it is exceeded 1 lakh 2 months later, what's the point? You can't really take any corrective action, can you? So that these are some of the challenges that Ghost Ops was facing, and because of this, they had no visibility into their uh, budgets versus the actuals spent for each of these locations. And then when it came to disbursing funds, okay, those disbursing funds also used to be time consuming because they had opened a bank account at each of these locations, and after that, the central team used to transfer to those bank accounts, and when the manager at these locations used to withdraw the cash from these bank accounts, and then all those cash expenses were done through vouchers and everything manual. So you're understanding what used to happen. There used to be one entry from the bank of withdrawal, say 1 lakh rupees, but ये 1 लाख का हुआ क्या ये पता चलता था 2 महीने बाद. तो ऐसे में हाउ डू यू इवन नो व्हाट आर द खर्चा हैपनिंग, वो सही है गलत है, एंड ऊपर से या वैसे में कैसे पता चलेगा वो खर्चा सही है गलत है, एज इट विद इन पॉलिसी नॉट विद इन पॉलिसी एक्सेट्रा. और ऊपर से इनकी जो सेंट्रल टीम थी, दे आल्सो यूज्ड टू कीप ट्रैवलिंग टू वेरियस लोकेशंस, तो वो टाइम पे उनका ट्रैवल एंड एक्सपेंस मैनेजमेंट का भी खर्चा हैंडल करना. तो नीड ऑफ द आवर वाज वन यूनिफाइड सोल्यूशन जिससे डिसबर्समेंट्स फास्ट हो जाए, छोटे एक्सपेंसेस, बिकॉज सी अभी जब बड़े बड़े एक्सपेंसेस तो चलो वैसे भी आप कुछ दूसरे सोल्यूशन से कर लेते हैं, डायरेक्टली वेंडर को पे कर दे, बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू स्मॉलर एक्सपेंसेस, 200 rupees, 500 rupees, 5,000, 10,000, which you're buying, groceries, and you're buying your materials and all of that at a local store. इसके केस में how do you handle that? Because वो तो यार वेंडर बैंक से एक्सेप्ट नहीं करने वाला. अगर आप उसको बोलो मैं बैंक पेमेंट करूंगा तो उसको इमीडिएट पेमेंट चाहिए. अगर आप कैश में दोगे तो प्रॉब्लम इज यू डोंट हैव एनी विजिबिलिटी ऑन दैट. देयर इज नो डिजिटल ट्रेल कि वो खर्चा हुआ था नहीं हुआ था, बराबर था नहीं था, एक्सेट्रा. So there was a need of the hour that there would be one unified bank integrated system जिससे expenses across all locations, across all heads, across all departments and functions should be handled through one unified system.
Could you now walk us through how BizPay specifically addressed all these pain points across various areas at Ghost Ops?
So see how BizPay works is when GoStop signed up with us, right? They got allotted a virtual account with IDFC First Bank. This was a pool account. So now
Hmm.
all disbursements they want to do to all their locations, they don't need to load different accounts or send money to different accounts. They just need to from their main current account load this one pool account for BizPay, right? So that's one thing. Second, each of the 30 locations may they designated two people who would be handling the expenses, and those people were given BizPay wallets. So now it is transferred onto the. So now all the money which comes for spends only gets transferred to BizPay wallets. Now, how BizPay is now works is those people who need money for business expenses will first raise a money request. तो इसकी वजह से सबसे पहले तो प्रॉब्लम ये सॉल्व हुआ कि भाई डिसबर्स कैसे करो, तो डिसबर्स ऐसे करो कि दे विल रेज अ मनी रिक्वेस्ट कि आई नीड 50,000 rupees. Now they will write why they need 50,000 rupees, say for these expenses. This goes through a multi-stage configurable approval workflow. पहले वो ऑप्स के हेड के पास जाता है, वो अप्रूव करता है, फाइनेंस टीम के पास जाता है, फाइनेंस टीम अप्रूव करता है, इंस्टेंटली फ्रॉम दैट पूल अकाउंट वो मनी गेट्स ट्रांसफर्ड टू दैट वॉलेट. तो सबसे पहले जो डिसबर्समेंट में डिलेज होते थे, एनईएफटी करो, आरटीजीएस करो, वो सब कुछ नहीं, विद इन लेस देन अ सेकंड मनी रीचेस देम, राइट. एंड इसका ट्रेल और ट्रेस भी मिलता है, हु अप्रूव्ड इट, हु वेरीफाइड इट, व्हाई डिड दे आस्क फॉर मनी, ऑन व्हाट पर्पस डिड दे आस्क फॉर. And while disbursing this money, the finance team can also verify कि जो previous पैसा दिया था उसका हिसाब सबमिट हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है. So they can take this conscious decision सबसे पहले कि should we disburse or not disburse. This itself leads to control of wastages, because सबसे पहले तो अगर previous हिसाब नहीं आया है तो दूसरा पैसा allot ही नहीं होता है. And there's a very easy quick system which helps you monitor that on a real time basis. तो उसकी वजह से एक्स्ट्रा पैसा डिस्पर्स होता ही नहीं है, तो वेस्टेजेस वहां ही इट गेट्स द प्रॉब्लम गेट्स निप्ड इन द बड.
So I also remember reading about the integration of UPI within BizPay. So tell us, how did this integration enhance GoStop's efficiency, particularly in travel, transportation, and marketing expenses?
When it comes to a corporate card solution, yeah, if you give a corporate card to an employee who's in a location like that, remote location, उनके कई लोकेशन नैनीताल में है, कोई दिल्ली के आउटस्कर्ट्स पे है, कोई मनाली में है, एक्सेट्रा. सो ऑल दीज प्लेसेस के ऊपर कार्ड की एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी, और इवन इन द सिटीज कार्ड की एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी इज नॉट 100%, right?
Hmm.
And for example, if you take a rickshaw and go somewhere, are you going to be able to pay that person with card? No, you're not. But UPI is a revolution in our country. Through UPI, you are able to pay digital payments for the smallest of payments. And this has been a game changer for GoStops and all our other customers as well. Why? Because you can do the smallest of expenses digitally. And digitally किया तो उसका trail होता है, उसका trace होता है, उसको you can verify whether the expense was genuine or not. बराबर? And even the record keeping is instant, because जैसे आपने payment किया वो capture हो गया and expense बन गया. So that's exactly how GoStops has also used it. So now across their functions, whether it comes to kitchen, where they have to go and buy daily expenses, buy daily groceries and daily supplies, it's always done, and most of the payments are done through UPI और कार्ड स्वाइप. जिधर कार्ड अवेलेबल है वो कार्ड स्वाइप करते हैं, जिधर नहीं अवेलेबल है वहाँ यूपीआई तो अवेलेबल है तो यूपीआई के थ्रू पेमेंट करते हैं. सेम वे फॉर ट्रैवल, सेम वे फॉर कन्वीनियंस, इफ दे आर मूविंग अराउंड, सेम वे एक्सेट्रा. So this because of this that UPI is available through a BizPay wallet, they were able to manage even the smallest of expenses जिसका कोई दूसरा solution नहीं था except cash. और जैसे ही cash आ गई उसका मतलब मैनुअल एंट्री आ गए, उसका मतलब वेस्टेज के चांसेस आ गए, उसका मतलब मिस्टेक्स एरर्स के चांसेस आ गए, वो सब एलिमिनेट हो गया थ्रू द यूपीआई इंटीग्रेशन विच BizPay supports.
Fantastic. And what's the feedback that you received from them?
Fantastic. You can see the case study. Within the case study, it's full of the testimonials from their various different departments, and we've also done a study of the benefits that they got out of it. So about 90% increase in efficiency, again over 90% elimination of errors and frauds, over 75% quicker disbursements, and so on and so forth.
Perfect. Okay, now moving to a different field. In cardio, right, operates in a very demanding environment. So could you tell us about the unique challenges that they faced in managing expenses, especially in infrastructure monitoring before they started using BizPay?
So in cardio, right, they are an EPC player. So that is
Hmm.
engineering, procurement, and construction, right? So what these people have various sites going on all over the place. Now these sites pay engineers and workers and the like have to keep moving around. Now the amount for each site runs into lakhs. So when this happens, their site-based petty cash is by no means petty, very big amount.
Hmm.
And such a big amount, so nobody is going to spend out of their own pocket and take a reimbursement. So necessarily advance देना होता है. अभी
Yeah.
advance कैसे दो? चलो ghost ops के case में तो you could open a bank account for 30 locations. Still inefficient, but at least that was possible. Here तो you have over 100 people moving around all over the place, constantly moving around. कैसे दोगे? अगर उनको personal bank account में दिया, so you lose complete control, complete visibility into what happened till the time they do not submit the hisab. And again, because these sites are so critical and because these sites are directly operational costs, site का जो खर्चा है fulfill करने का, that is part of the operations cost. So if you are spending more than you are required to spend, directly profitability gets affected. So उस पे budget control रखना is mission critical. So now how do you do that? That is one of the problems. Plus again, they have to make small expenses, big expenses, and they are again moving in remote locations. And from one side, they would directly go to another side, to another side, to another side. So submitting any kind of manual hisab or submitting any kind of manual account for the spends into an office is just not possible because they don't come to office for months.
Yeah.
So because of this, they had
Hmm.
lack of visibility into their expenses. They had complete lack of visibility into their actual spends as compared to the budget for the site expense management, and because of which even their the track of profitability per site was really getting hampered.
So how did BizPay streamline their operations in such a complex industry?
Is glad you asked that. So with BizPay, again, UPI wallet enabled wallets were given to all these workers who need to move around. Plus, one more feature of BizPay which became very relevant here is these engineers used to many a times use their own vehicles for travel. In such a case, they needed to calculate the mileage reimbursement rate per kilometer and also give them the reimbursement for the personal vehicle that has been used, right? Now, to do that, BizPay also has a GPS-based mileage tracking feature, which came in very handy for them. They start the mileage tracking, they go the entire length that they want to, then they shut it. Automatically, the kilometer gets calculated, and it becomes the reimbursement also gets auto-calculated. And yes, apart from that, all the spends of the site are now done through the UPI enabled wallets. छोटे payments, बड़े payments, सब कुछ वो लोग digitally करते हैं. And one very important feature of BizPay, which is really usable for these guys, is called expense buckets. They create an expense bucket, which is like a cost center for each of their sites. Okay. And whenever the worker is working for that particular site, he makes that expense bucket his default. So whatever spends the team is doing will automatically fall into that bucket. And इतना ही नहीं, it will get live tracked against the budget allotted for that bucket. इसका मतलब on an everyday basis, as the spends are happening, you are seeing how much the spends is against the budget for that bucket. जरा भी अगर budget को hit कर रहा है या it is about to overshoot, you will come to know on a real-time basis as a manager, and you can take corrective action today rather than 30, 40, 50 days later. You take it today. Now, because of this reason, their ability to take real-time actions, their ability to actually cut overspending and to increase their site profitability, this was absolutely possible because of BizPay. And really proud of being able to do that and add value to an EPC company like Headquartered.
That's amazing, and it's seriously a very wonderful case study. So tell me, after implementing BizPay, what kind of results and ROI did in cardio right see? Any numbers that you want to share with us?
In cardio right now, I'll tell you one very simple thing that after implementing BizPay, okay, before implementing BizPay, their cash transactions used to be very high because जब पैसा देते थे personal account के अंदर to an employee, he used to withdraw everything from the ATM. and then all that amount which used to run into lakhs would be lying in cash in the employee's hand. तो कोई हिसाब तो कुछ था ही नहीं. And whenever cash expenses are involved, needless to say, you don't have any track, you don't have any this. Wastage भी हो सकता है, mistake भी हो सकता है, loss भी हो सकता है, कुछ भी हो सकता है, right? So one metric which is really, really heartening, that total spends, okay, after implementing BizPay became only and only 6%. और वो भी 6% इसीलिए कभी इंटरनेट इश्यू फेस हुआ और समथिंग लाइक दैट, जिधर इंटरनेट नहीं चल रहा है, तभी कैश से पेमेंट करना हुआ. और तभी भी जब कैश से पेमेंट किया, इमीडिएटली जब इंटरनेट आ गया, वो रीइंबर्स ले लिया, यूपीआई से मैटर तभी के तभी क्लोज हो गया. सो व्हाटएवर वो it got tracked on a real-time basis, and this is one of the major empowering factors which BizPay brings to our customers, that by it can truly eliminate cash in the organization.
So lastly, let's touch upon how BizPay has made a difference in the manufacturing world. Safe Enterprise being one of the examples. They are a manufacturer of shop fittings and retail fixtures, and they had their own unique set of challenges with expense management, correct? So could you share what their initial approach was and why they realized they needed a more efficient, solution?
So, Ankita, Safe Enterprise also similar to Encardio has sites, right? These fixtures and fittings which get manufactured in the factory need to be fitted on the client location. So once again, workers need to keep moving around, installation staff needs to keep moving around all over the place. Again, they need to keep a budget versus actual analysis. Once again, the problem of how do you give them money? If you give it in the personal account, you lose complete visibility, budget tracking, all of this was smooth. So Safe Enterprise also benefited exactly the way Encardio benefited. But one significant difference in Safe Enterprises is that Safe Enterprises has a R&D department, and for this research and development projects, right, takes sometimes many years. And now when it comes to research and development, what happens? You have to do many expenses. Sometimes travel is required as part of a retail project. Sometimes you have to buy certain testing equipment. Certain times you have to give it to a lab outside, etc. So many costs are happening, and they're happening over a prolonged period of time, right? So before this, what used to happen is they had no real proper way of tracking all these expenses against a cost center, so that you would know that by these expenses are for this given purpose. But with BizPay, they created an expense bucket for R&D project, okay, and they were able to allot certain employees with certain wallets, BizPay wallets, to those expense buckets. So now whenever they made any spends, those guys are exclusively meant for research and development. All their spends that they made were for those R&D projects. So whenever they made the spends, they automatically fell into the budget, into the bucket. Because of this, at any given point of time, you could know what is the true cost of an R&D project, which hitherto was no way of knowing. So now this similar thing can be used for anything. Say you're constructing a factory. Again, in factory construction, you have the major larger costs, but then you have so many small ancillary costs which are related to the factory, जो कभी track ही नहीं होता पाता कि भाई ये करने का true खर्चा क्या है. And BizPay was able to give Safe Enterprises this ability to manage and track their true real expenditure for the purposes that they want to track it.
Mikdad, everything you've shared today truly highlight BizPay's versatility and the tangible impact it's making across diverse industries. So now, as we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience, and how can Follow Startups community contribute to BizPay's ongoing success? This is your call for support.
So I just want to share that these are the few case studies that I shared with you, but there are much more. So from engineering, EPC, construction, infrastructure, logistics, retail, pharma, manufacturing, whatever be the use case, wherever spends are being made by employees, wherever there are multiple locations, wherever there is movement of employees outside the office, BizPay can add immense value. So from the startup community, I want connections to all those people who will be facing this kind of a problem. I would be welcome to understanding their use case and seeing whether BizPay is a good fit for them or not. As well as I am looking to tie up with as many tech companies as possible. Because again, we're looking at tie-up with HRMS, accounting systems, with ERP systems, with other fintech companies, etc., for collaborations, tie-up, so that our product can add more and more value to our customers.
Thank you, Mikdad, for taking the time to walk us through the case studies, and we are very excited to see where you take BizPay next.
Thank you so much, Ankita, and thank you once again for having me. It's always a pleasure.
So to our listeners, if you want to stay connected with BizPay's journey, don't forget to follow them on our platform. And if you are a startup founder with a story to tell, reach out to me at ankita.pahwa@follow.us. We'd love to showcase your work.